Jalinski is the president of Wealth Quarterback LLC, a registered investment advisory firm located in New Jersey. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm or its representatives by securities regulators, nor is it an indication that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Investment advisory services may only be provided to clients in jurisdictions in which the firm and its representatives are appropriately registered or exempt from registration. You should not assume that any discussion or information contained in this broadcast serves as the receipt of or as a substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor. Different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that the future performance of any specific investment, investment strategy, or product, or any non-investment related content made reference to directly or indirectly in this broadcast will be profitable, equal any corresponding indicated historical performance level or levels, be suitable for your portfolio or individual situation, or prove successful. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Investment advisory services offered through Wealth Quarterback LLC. Tired of losing money in the stock market roller coaster? Frustrated with the government taxing you into oblivion? Worried about inflation? How do you prepare for so many financial uncertainties? Welcome to the show that will help you develop your game plan. The Financial Quarterback with Josh Jalinski. Josh is a noted financial advisor and president of the Jalinski Advisory Group, and he's here to answer your questions. Call into the show at 800-321-0710. 800-321-0710. Now, let's kick off your financial future. Here's Josh Jalinski.
Hi, everybody. This is the Financial Quarterback. Coming up on this hour, we're discussing that divorced and widowed women are most at risk of retiring earlier than expected. How unplanned singlehood can affect your finances. The Fed wants to lose money in stocks and probably crypto too. In fact, the Fed wants you to lose money in stocks and crypto. And 67% of pandemic boomerang kids are still living with their mom and dad. Man, you know, if I was living with my mom and dad in my 20s, I would become a millionaire by like 25. Anyway, Roth Ira distribution ordering rules. Married women may want to make sure that they consider the possibility of an unplanned singlehood when it comes to retirement preparations. That man that you've been relying on may die early. But first, I want to hear from you. This is an open line edition of the broadcast. Call us. We are live on YouTube and we're taking your calls. So we have the YouTube chat. So if you have questions on stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds, whatever question you have, no question is a dumb one except the one that you didn't ask. So call me now, 800-321-0710 if you have questions on anything financial related. Now is the time to chime in. We're taking your questions all hour. This is an open line edition of the program. Call me right now, 800-321-0710. So among women retirees, 51% of those who are divorced or widowed stepped away from the workforce earlier than planned, according to a new report from the Employee Benefit Research Institute. That compares with 42% of their married counterparts. Additionally, a higher share of divorced women or widowed say the retirement lifestyle is worse. So the golden years are not so golden. 26% widowed or divorced say the retirement lifestyle is worse than expected compared to married women. You know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see how are single women? Because a lot of women who are never married, and so they're never divorced, like they knew they had to plan for retirement on their own. They're some of our, sharpest clients. So we love them. Well, whether you're divorced, widowed, single, you need to plan because nobody's there to protect you. Who's going to be there if you have long-term care illness? The Institute's report, which focuses on women's retirement confidence. So if you're a woman, I want you to call right now, 800-321-0710. Do you feel like you are confident to retire? Also in the 10 o'clock hour, we have an Inflation Reduction Act hour with New York Times best-selling author Tom Wheelwright. Now, based on a survey conducted in January among 2,677 Americans aged 25 or older, unmarried workers, particularly females, and retirees had lower confidence than their married counterparts. Maybe because you stand by your man. Maybe because you had two salaries. Maybe there's a lot of reasons. And are more likely to have lower incomes and assets, the studies show. Occasionally, we'll get a couple in, and the wife is looking all doe-eyed at her idiot husband, and the husband sticks his chest out. He's very proud. He's worked for 40 years. They have a pension. They have Social Security. And you know what, Josh? I have $1 million saved for retirement, so I don't need you. I'm okay. I'm our financial planner. Well, what happens when we'll call him Jake the Snake? What happens when Jake the Snake dies early? The pension gets cut in half. The Social Security gets cut. You lose one check. You might lose half of your pension. And what happens when the market plunges the year that Jake dies? Well, we'll call the wife Dolly the Doe-Eyed. And there's one of two reactions that typically occurs when a married couple comes in, when they have a Jake the Snake type husband. Now, mind you, I'm not speaking ill of Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake's a hard worker. He might be very smart, accountant, engineer. He is wise in worldly pursuits of money. He's a guy you'd look up to at church or whatever. But what he doesn't realize is that he might die. And the wife that depended on him so dutifully was not as well educated on the finances. Now, it could be vice versa. In the more modern era, I have seen women take over the financial purse strings from the men, and the men sit and they're, Davy the doe-eyed. But I will tell you, when the women have the doe-eyed husband, they are wiser. They are more wise to the fact that they might die. What's going to happen to their husband? So they set up trusts, things like that. So I see this a lot. And I also see that single people are left out of the retirement planning conversation. Yeah, I'm talking to you. So many times the traditional financial plan is based on a husband and a wife with kids. But if you don't have kids, and if you're single, you have other risks to your retirement plan. If you're usually married with kids, one of your goals is legacy. If you're not married with no kids, maybe your goal is not to leave all of your money to your niece or nephew who has a drinking problem. So what about charitable giving? What about trusts? So call us. We are taking all of your questions at 800-321-0710. So caregiving and health issues play a role in early retirement. While some women may discover they can retire early because their now-deceased spouse has left them life insurance with generous death benefits. By the way, that doesn't happen very often. I've helped many, a widow, 55, and by then the term insurance expired because they listened to Dave Ramsey too much. So they bought term, they invested the difference, and now their spouse died and they left them with very little in the form of life insurance. So many do so due to family responsibilities or health problems. This said Craig Copeland, author of the study. Widows may also struggle with their spouse's death from an emotional standpoint and end up leaving their job due to the grief. Men can sometimes get over stuff like that easier. Women, not so much. Rel points to the case of a married couple who were her clients. Both spouses planned to work until 67. However, the husband died unexpectedly before he reached 67. The wife wanted to quit when he died, but I knew it would be catastrophic financially. She ended up going part-time to give her time to deal with the grief. But guess what? She got half the income, and she lost his income. So in reality, unless they had a couple $1,000,000 saved for retirement, there's a problem. Factor what ifs into your planning. Even if you're married, it is smart, and this is what we do on our retirement income simulator, which will be your free gift if you schedule and keep your no obligation review at 888-988-JOSH. It's smart to get a sense of what retirement might look like if you're unexpectedly single. So if you call me now for your income for life review, we will model out married life till you're 99, and we'll model out single life at 67. And will your plan have that sustainable? Up next, we're taking your calls at 800-321-0710. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Tune in to the financial quarterback Josh Jalinski this weekend and learn how to protect your financial future in a down economy. Josh and his team at the Jalinski Advisory Group can help you lower your taxes and lower your risk in these uncertain times with a 27-point checklist designed to improve your financial health. Whether you're worried about runaway prices, fear of an upcoming recession, or a stock market meltdown, tune in to the financial quarterback and count on Josh Jalinski to call the play. For a free copy of Josh's book, The Retirement Reality Check, call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674. Or visit Jalinski.org. That's JALINSKI.org. Maybe it seems like prices can't get much higher, or that the stock market is headed for bear territory. Or maybe you're worried about another great recession. Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, can help you protect your family's financial future in times like these. Tune in this weekend to the financial quarterback to hear how Josh and his team can help you decrease your tax liability and lower your risk. Call 888-988-5674 to take advantage of Josh's 27-point plan to achieve financial health. And when you call, you'll receive a free copy of Josh's book, Retirement Reality Check. Tune in every weekend to the financial quarterback and call 888-988-5674 to receive your free copy of Retirement Reality Check.
Hi, this is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, talking about factoring in what if planning into your financial planning. Something I'll do with you for free if you call us at 888-988-JOSH. But you need to plan for these 5 scenarios. Married, both living till 99. If you're single, you don't need to plan that scenario. Number 2, what if one spouse dies early in retirement? Number 3, what if one spouse has a long-term care illness? Number 4, what if both spouses have illness but still live? You know, you can still be miserable in living, right? And step number 5, what if both spouses die early or one spouse dies in middledom retirement? Maybe things work in your head, but they don't work when we actually do the simulation tool. So we will give you a free wealth simulator at 888-988-JOSH. Now, it's important to be familiar with all of your assets and financial obligations, including those that may be affected by your spouse's death, such as pension benefits, Social Security, and insurance policies. That Dave Ramsey listener might go, you know what? I bought term and I invested the difference, and I have $2 million saved for retirement. Well, $2 million may not cut it. $1 million may not cut it. Women are getting smarter about money, especially younger women, Rel said. Hey, I take exception to that. We have many retired female clients who are doing it alone and doing it with style. But still, traditionally, there may be division of labor where the husband dealt with the investments and wives dealt more with day-to-day cash. Even if you're married, it's smart to get a sense of what your retirement might look like if unexpectedly single. Call us 888-988-JOSH for the free What to Do If I'm Single review or planning on being single review. The Federal Reserve's campaign against inflation might not be finished until you've lost your money on Bitcoin. The Fed wants to create a reverse wealth effect. That's called RWE, and get people that own assets to rethink some of their purchase habits and maybe slow demand. It's a dangerous game the Fed is playing. You want the market to go down, but you got to be careful when that starts to happen, because if you get everybody running for the hills because they're going to be the enemy of the market, you could turn it into a rout. So the Fed wants you to lose money. We'll talk about that. But first, Monica, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Josh. How are you doing today?
Lovely. Always good to hear your voice.
Thank you. I'm calling about insurance. I let my insurance lapse many years ago when I was younger, so now I do not have insurance at my old age. But is it possible that my son can take insurance on me?
Oh, yeah, your son could take insurance on you. That's a great thing for a child to do. Let's say your son is, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm going to be 65 in October.
So let's say you live for 30 years. And how old is your son?
37.
So he'll be 67 when you're in your 90s. You know, if he takes, whatever, could be $500 a month, $300 a month, buys a life insurance policy on your life, when you pass in your 90s, he gets a windfall, and you could do it to where you actually have long-term care. So if you need to be taken care of, you can use the death benefit while you're alive. Sounds pretty good, huh?
Oh, that would be great if it can work, because I do not have long-term care, which I really regret not having one when I was younger. Now it's out of my reach, you know?
Yeah, so this could be a way for him to benefit if you pass early, but you to benefit if you live longer, and he's okay with, paying that premium because he might get a windfall.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there could be cash value growth, tax-free buildup of cash. So there's a lot of potential benefits.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be great. I'll call your office to work it out. My second question is also my retirement. I retired, even though I retired for almost 5 years ago. I haven't collected my benefit yet. For why I don't know why I'm waiting for it. And I want to know, is there a way of not paying taxes when I start collecting? Because they were talking about taking taxes out of, it's not much, like $1,600 a month or whatever.
Taking taxes out of pension or Social Security?
Pension.
There's no way to avoid pension taxation. In some states, you don't pay taxes, like New York, on certain pension benefits given from the state or city, like if you're a police or firefighter, teacher in some cases. Pension income under a certain amount is excluded from state income tax. But every state is different.
I see. Okay.
Pennsylvania and New York don't tax your state income, but the feds still tax it federally. So.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much, and have a good day. And I'm glad our son is doing much better.
You too. Thank you. And I know you're a praying woman, so pray for my son, my little baby. He's in the hospital again. So.
Oh, he is. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, he has double pneumonia. No, it just came out. So we're praying that he's healed and comes home today. So hopefully.
God willing, he will.
Lord willing. So yes, exactly. So thank you so much for your prayers. I know you pray, and you prayed for him a year ago when he was in the hospital 2 months. I remember your voice. I think it was you. So
Yes, it was me. Yes.
thank you, Monica. So you're a sweetheart. And
Thank you. Okay. And God willing, we pray for him. I'm going to light the candle tonight.
Exactly. So thank you so much. And I'd love to meet with you or any of our listeners at 888-988-JOSH. You may be thinking, why am I not in the hospital? Well, I have 7 kids, and I'm playing single dad to 6 kids, all on my own, with a little help yesterday from Ben, and my sister today is helping me. So what did we do yesterday? Well, I had to take the day off yesterday. What did we do? Well, we woke up. I fed them. I'm not as good at this as my wife. They ate Chex. Then I said, you know what? I got to get them something healthy. So this is a day in the life of a single dad of 6, I guess. I don't know many single dads of 6. No many married dads of 7. So what did we do? We took them to the boardwalk. We got some healthy, something called Hula Restaurant. So we got them salad, rice, and a little salmon teriyaki, because Daddy feeds them well. Then we were visiting my in-laws, so we proceeded to pack up to go straight home because it's easier to watch them at home and ran around. But the kids are like, Daddy, can we get Polish water ice? I said, I am Polish, and you don't need all this sugar. But I didn't. I caved. I got them a small, but the small was really big. I should have got them a kitty. So, so we got them, I felt like they were deprived. They had 2 months of mommy and baby in the hospital last year. So it's a little traumatic, even though it should be a shorter stay, hopefully. So that was a little traumatic. So then we went home, and then had to take Billy to the hospital, not the hospital doctor, because I was worried he might have pneumonia too. Billy just has a cold or something, some virus or ear infection. He's a mess. So pray for him. So, but Billy, so I was taking care of Billy, but then we didn't want to deprive them because we didn't know how long this would be. So that's a tough thing. When you're dealing with kids in crisis situations, they get trauma, so sometimes they like to do things that bring them comfort. So the girls wanted to go to youth group, and then the boys wanted to go to baseball and soccer. So that was nice, and it kind of preoccupied it, so they didn't miss mommy as much. Because my wife's with the baby. So we did that. Me and Ben and a girl from the youth group helped drive them. So, it's what you do. You chip in, you help. Then today we have a round of soccer and baseball. And tomorrow we got church, soccer, baseball. So it's insane. Having 7 kids, what you don't think about is the sports schedule. Now, I knew a guy who I went to church with years ago. His name was Brian. He was insistent his kids not play sports because whatever, I don't know, bad influences or whatever it might be. But, I like sports. I don't want them sitting around, getting fat from just, being sedentary their whole lives. So they're having fun. Maybe not do 3 sports for a kid next fall. Maybe do like 2. But hey, it's fun. And the eyes on the girls are kind of over it. One plays soccer. One's in high school now, so she's done with, recreational sports, which is kind of sad that they end recreational sports around middle school, because I would think it would be fun to just play. So I thought Michelle Obama was all into that. Play 60, remember? Well, it didn't really happen. So we're talking about the Fed wants to tank the economy. The reason why goes back to the basics of central banker. bankers, the Fed does what it does with monetary policy, these days raising interest rates. And that filters through the economy by impacting, among other things, how much key assets cost, financial conditions. So if you're decrying, oh, this inflation, why is there so much inflation? Because the Fed made money cheap. So what does that mean? That means rich people loan more, they buy more assets, the poor feel poorer. The Fed is the number one cause of income inequality. It's not the Republican Party, it's not the Democratic Party. Other than that, they let the Fed do this. So when there's a crisis, oh, I don't want my business to go under. Government, save us. Well, you know what? Big government can't save you and won't save you. You know, it's like Jesus said, you always have the poor, you always have the rich. You're not really gonna, because what happens is, well, what happens with PPP? Remember PPP? You know, not a OPP, but PPP, the Paycheck Protection Act. Kanye got millions. Why? Because he was hiring people. And he should have. That was the purpose of the law. He didn't have to lay anybody off. Business owners were given a bailout, but the bailout went directly to their employees. But what happens then, instead of having a great reset of financial assets, so every 7 to 10 years, there used to be something called the business cycle. So 1987, 1993, 2000 to 2002, 2007 to 2009, which every 7 years, you would have a reset in the economy. People lose their businesses, they lose their houses. But then what that does, if you lose your Donald Trump went bankrupt, all these people went bankrupt over the years. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. You used to have a reset of people's minds. They just didn't, now you watch Instagram or Facebook and you see people like Grant Cardone say cash is trash. No, cash isn't trash. Cash prevents you from going bankrupt. But what do? They just run up a credit card, they buy a house. Now they just run up a credit card and they buy a building. And then when people can't pay the building, what used to happen is the wealthy would go out of business. So they would have to keep a cash reserve. Hence why most financial planners say, have an emergency fund. But because of all these bailouts in 2007 and 2009, and in 2020 with coronavirus, 2020, you basically have not had a reset of financial assets, which is what you need to have affordability. So crashes are good for the poor and middle class because it makes things more affordable. They tend to be very bad for people with wealthy assets because your 401k goes from 2 million to 1 million, 500,000 to 250. But people don't get that. Central bankers save us. And typically, I'm not questioning their motives or intention. They want to avoid a Great Depression. But could they be spurning us into a worse economic situation? It's called the law of unintended consequences. They're trying to do one thing, another thing happens. So we'll be back with your calls all hour at 800-321-0710. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Tune in to the financial quarterback Josh Jalinski this weekend and learn how to protect your financial future in a down economy. Josh and his team at the Jalinski Advisory Group can help you lower your taxes and lower your risk in these uncertain times with a 27-point checklist designed to improve your financial health. Whether you're worried about runaway prices, fear of an upcoming recession, or a stock market meltdown, tune in to the financial quarterback and count on Josh Jalinski to call the play. For a free copy of Josh's book, The Retirement Reality Check, call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674. Or visit Jalinski.org. That's JALINSKI.org.
Okay, folks, you are not going to want to miss our Inflation Reduction Act. So the Fed is looking to kill the economy. Let's just look at Bitcoin, right? Now, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, but I didn't buy any January 1. But a lot of people on social media said to. Now, I'm not against the long-term proposition of Bitcoin. Realize that what I am against is speculation. Bitcoin is down 57% for the year to date, according to CoinDesk data, grappling with a broader crypto asset sell-off fueled by industry bankruptcies and a struggling global economic landscape. Folks, I have Rich Dad tax guru Tom Wheelwright in just about 30 minutes. But right now we're talking about how the Fed is trying to kill the economy, or are they? Fed policymakers have been sanguine toward markets like stocks, preparing traders in advance, something called forward guidance for upcoming changes to monetary policy. But that seems to be in the past. In July, Fed Chair Powell announced that bankers would stop practicing forward guidance. So they're not going to be giving warning. It's clear the Fed wants to see tighter financial conditions, which include lower stock prices. This from Brian Overby of Ally. And that means probably crypto too, because crypto prices have been strongly correlated with equities. That's likely unwelcome news for crypto investors who've already suffered deep losses. The U.S. Central Bank has two mandates, according to their own. I think they should have no mandates. I think we should end the Fed. Doesn't really do anything. The U.S. Central Bank has two mandates: price stability and maximum employment. Right now, prices aren't stable. Here's why employment should not be a guise of the Fed. It's very sad when you lose your job, right? It's very sad when your friend loses their job. However, it's good for the economy. Because let's say you're making 250 grand a year, have a good, very well-paying job, as an executive. You lose your job and you overbought for a house. You bought $1 million house when you should have really bought a $475,000 house. What's going to happen? You're going to be foreclosed upon eventually. And then the prices in your neighborhood, instead of being $475 million, are going to go back to being more in line with the equilibrium. It is bad for the personal economy, good for the macro economy. And these people are supposed to be economists. They don't realize this. Employment should not, I repeat, should not be a mandate of the central bank. Right now, prices aren't stable with inflation running well above the Fed's 2% goal. The reason why we have inflation is because money's cheap. So, hey, if minimum wage is whatever, it's like double what it was a few years ago. What do? They just double the price of steak. They double the price of a hamburger because you can afford it. So there's no one's making any more. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate is still low and employers are adding over 300,000 jobs per month. And that's great news for job seekers, but perversely something that could fuel inflation, raising pressure on the Fed to take even stronger action. That spells trouble for the stock market. Even though U.S. GDP has contracted for 2 straight quarters, the economy, according to this article, is in good shape. I don't think the economy is in good shape. Go to the grocery store. I don't know where these people smoking crack who write these articles. Further signs of weakness, though, will test the Fed's resolve and force policymakers to evaluate how much pain they want to cause in the markets. They shouldn't be into causing pain. Pain should come periodically, and people learn to save. They learn what your great-grandparents learned about. People who went through the Great Depression are smarter. They're made of tougher stuff. They wash out their Ziploc bags. Why? Because they're cheap. Because they understand the value of a dollar. People don't understand the value of a dollar. How much the average kid spend on sneakers now, Ben?
Average?
They're spending a lot of money, right?
Probably on average $200 a shoe now.
Oh my goodness.
Not anymore.
I remember a good pair of sneakers was what? Well, you know what? I do pay about $50 still for my sneakers, but they're not as cool as yours, Ben. With the purple and teal or whatever, Those are your coolest shoes. I like those the best, I think. Now, how many of these expensive shoes do you have? I got some flack for saying you had 100. Some listener didn't like that I called you out. So how many shoes do you really have? Don't be embarrassed.
Oh, for being honest, maybe about 10 pairs of shoes, 15 pairs of shoes.
So, not bad. So, and how much did each one of those cost? Well, that shall remain nameless. So anyway, the whole shoe craze, people are into shoes now. My sister was into shoes like 20 years ago. If she would have saved that money in the market, she'd be a millionaire. She just bought Maddens. Maddens were big back then. She had like hundreds of these Maddens. Like literally a room filled with shoe boxes. And it was a big thing. And if she liked you, she'd give you a pair of Maddens. I don't know. Is it Steve Madden? Is it John Madden? Anyway, so folks, give us a call, 800-321-0710. We're live taking your calls. Do we have any comments in the YouTube? Go to the comments in YouTube. We are YouTube. Just search for The Financial Quarterback, Josh Jalinski. We are also on Clubhouse. So if you have a question, raise your hand. We'll bring you up. Ping in your friends on Clubhouse. If you have questions on stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds, it's very possible, the article says, central bankers could very well cave once they're faced with some really bad employment numbers, but they haven't been so far. I don't think they will, but I completely understand. Even though U.S. GDP has contracted for 2 straight quarters, the economy seems to be in good enough shape to withstand aggressive rate hikes. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to people, if we have more Fed rate hikes, the real estate market is doomed. Doomed. Well, you know what? Might be good for the economy. So bring on the doom. At the height of the COVID pandemic, many young adults moved back in with mom and dad. It was an unprecedented moment of uncertainty. College campuses were closed and jobs were scarce. More than 2 years later, 67% of millennials and Gen Zers who moved home are still there, according to LendingTree. For parents, however, supporting grown children can be a substantial drain at a time when their own financial security is at risk. This from CNBC. Most said they initially moved in with mom and dad out of necessity or to save money. Hefty student loan bills from school and soaring housing costs have put a financial stranglehold on those just starting out. Now the surging cost of living and sky-high rents are making it harder to move on. With inflation as high as it is, and with rates rising, it can be difficult for anyone to make ends meet in today's economy, said Jacob Channel, LendingTree's senior economist. Now, why do so many young adults live with mom and dad? Overall, multi-generational living is on the rise and has been for years. The number of households with 2 or more adult generations have quadrupled over the past 5 decades, according to a Pew Research Center report based on census data from 1971 to 2021. Such households now represent 18% of the U.S. population, it estimates. Finances are the number one reason families are doubling up. Pew found due in part due to ballooning student debt and housing costs. Caregiving also plays a role in the decision process. So what about you? Is your child stuck at home? Call us now, 800-321-0710. What are you doing to teach your children financial security, even though they're still living with you? Do you feel like you failed as a parent? Or do you figure, hey, that's the new normal? Kids move out when they're 35 and they can afford a first-time home purchase. You know, that's what I would do. You know, if your kid's stuck at home, set up a savings account for them, have them pay rent, and put it into a side account so that when you get sick of them living with you, they have some money for first-time home purchase. Did you know that in your 20s, you can get like 3% home purchase? Very little money down, 3%. So if your house, if starter home's $300,000 right now, $9,000 gets you a down payment on a house. So that's a first-time home purchase program. To that end, multi-generational living has grown the fastest among adults age 25 to 34. In 2020, the share of those living with their parents, often referred to as boomerang kids, temporarily spiked to a historic high. The pandemic was a short-term rocket, but the levels today are significantly above where they were in 2019 and has been rising over the past 20 years. So we're going to take more calls. Folks, when we return, if you have a question on any matter financial, call me 800-321-0710. This is Josh Jalinski. Call me now, 800-321-0710. And at the 10 o'clock hour, we have Rich Dad, Poor Dad, tax guru, arguably one of the smartest tax guys in the country, Tom Wheelwright, talking about your finances. 888-988-JOSH gets you the free Income for Life review. I would love to meet with you. Call us for a free review. 888-988-JOSH. We'll be back after these messages.
Maybe it seems like prices can't get much higher, or that the stock market is headed for bear territory, or maybe you're worried about another great recession. Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, can help you protect your family's financial future in times like these. Tune in this weekend to the Financial Quarterback to hear how Josh and his team can help you decrease your tax liability and lower your risk. Call 888-988-5674 to take advantage of Josh's 27-point plan to achieve financial health. And when you call, you'll receive a free copy of Josh's book, Retirement Reality Check. Tune in every weekend to the Financial Quarterback and call 888-988-5674 to receive your free copy of Retirement Reality Check. Tune in to the Financial Quarterback Josh Jalinski this weekend and learn how to protect your financial future in a down economy. Josh and his team at the Jalinski Advisory Group can help you lower your taxes and lower your risk in these uncertain times with a 27-point checklist designed to improve your financial health. Whether you're worried about runaway prices, fear of an upcoming recession, or a stock market meltdown, tune in to the Financial Quarterback and count on Josh Jalinski to call the play. For a free copy of Josh's book, The Retirement Reality Check, call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674. Or visit Jalinski.org. That's JALINSKI.org.
Okay, we're back. Taking your calls on All Matters Financial at 800-321-0710. Got word from the hospital. He's doing a little better. Got a beautiful drawing of him with this little oxygen machine. So hopefully he gets discharged soon. 25% of young adults live in a multi-generational household, up from just 9% 5 decades ago. In most cases, 25 to 34-year-olds are living in the home of one or both of their parents. A smaller share live in their own home and have a parent or other older relatives stay with them. The percentage of young adults living with parents or grandparents is even greater among men and those without a college degree. It's really a private social safety net for them. Young adults without a bachelor's degree tend to earn less than those who finish college, Pew also found. I don't think that's the case anymore. You ever talk to your neighborhood plumber? They're making more than most kids coming out of college. Neighborhood electrician. I think maybe traditionally, but I think if your kid's sharp and learns a trade, they don't need college. Not surprisingly, older parents are also more likely to pay for most of the expenses when 2 or more generations share a home. The typical 25 to 34-year-old in a multi-generational household contributes 22% of total household income. Here's a question I want to throw out to you. At what age do you think you should kick your kids off of your Amazon Prime account? Or your Netflix? Like, how old is too old? Obviously, it seems like society says 35, you got to kick your kids out of your house. That's what society says now. I would say, I don't know, 25, 22, 23, something. They gotta, I think the problem is reduced male virility. I say this in part in jest because they're feeding little boys too much soy and not enough red meat. This just in, the Netherlands is banning, they are banning, the Netherlands, you can smoke pot whenever you want, you can do drugs, but you can't advertise red meat. Why is that? They want to reduce creatine. They want to reduce male virility because they want docility. It's crazy. They want to increase estrogen. It's insane. But go ahead, Michelle. Let's take us back to the world of finance. Although there is a financial link, and I'll explain why in a moment. But go ahead, Michelle.
Yes, good morning, Josh. My husband and I will be on a fixed income for retirement next year. I'm 64, he's 61. We have several joint annuities, and we each have a pension. My question is, would it be advantageous for one of us to purchase a whole life insurance policy at this point, sort of to help with, inflation many years down the road and other benefits that it might provide?
Oh, sure. Life insurance among people in their 60s, early 70s is one of our most fastest category of people we see interested. Here's why. You bought the buy term, invest the difference thing that was touted in the 80s as the be all end all. And now you have enough money, but you're like, what about long-term care? What about legacy? What if he dies first? What if she dies first? And so the tax-free benefits of life insurance, and particularly cash value life insurance, is attractive because of the cash value buildup inside the life insurance policy being tax-free like a Roth, because the death benefit that can be used while you're alive. You can also use that death benefit to unlock hidden equity, like in a reverse mortgage. One would be, hesitant to do a reverse mortgage, but if you have life insurance proceeds to pay off the reverse mortgage when you die, you can leave a paid off house, but you can get tax-free income off of the reverse mortgage. So it's not merely for the tax-free buildup of cash, although that's nice. It's not merely for the death benefit, although that's nice. Not merely for the long-term care benefits, although that's nice. It's also for unlocking the value of hidden assets. So it could be a great place for a retiree to put some extra dough that they don't need. Any other follow-ups to that, Michelle?
And you are specifically talking about a whole life, correct?
When I say whole, okay, there are many different types. Whole is a loaded word, because there could be like Alex Trebek whole life, God rest his soul, which is generally not as good as, or like infomercial whole life. It's not as good as what's called a dividend-paying participating policy from a mutual company. So that's the type I like, and really the only type of whole life I like. Fixed indexed universal life can also be beneficial as long as it's properly funded. Generally, I stay away from variable universal, stay away from term when you're older. I stay away from the straight kind of whole life that's called non-participating. So there's a lot there, and we would be certainly happy to unpack that with you or any of our listeners at 888-988-JOSH. But I think I know you, Michelle. So
yes, you
your
do.
voice is undeniable. So great to hear you, and thanks for calling with. And if you have any other questions, hold on. We're taking our final break of the hour. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Tune in to the financial quarterback Josh Jalinski this weekend and learn how to protect your financial future in a down economy. Josh and his team at the Jalinski Advisory Group can help you lower your taxes and lower your risk in these uncertain times with a 27-point checklist designed to improve your financial health. Whether you're worried about runaway prices, fear of an upcoming recession, or a stock market meltdown, tune in to the financial quarterback and count on Josh Jalinski to call the play. For a free copy of Josh's book, The Retirement Reality Check, call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674. Or visit Jalinski.org. That's JALINSKI.org.
710 800-321-0710. Is Michelle still with us, or did she drop off?
She's gone.
Okay, folks, you can call us if you have any financial questions. 800-321-0710. Older parents are also more likely to pay for most of the expenses when 2 or more generations share a home. The typical 25 to 34-year-old in a multi-generational household contributes 22% of the total household income, Pew found. In an economy that has produced the highest inflation rate since the 80s, the cost of having young adults living at home has risen sharply. But overall, there's an economic benefit to those living arrangements. Pew found that Americans living in multi-generational households are less likely to be financially vulnerable. So that's one good thing. Maybe your kid takes care of you a little bit so you don't have to go in an Uber. Now, this may seem like a rudimentary topic, but it is the basics that are often so confusing. A fundamental understanding of Roth IRA distributions is essential to IRA owners. In a blog post from June 8th called The One Roth IRA Bucket, there was a scenario where a person had 5 Roths, a couple of traditional IRAs, and was doing Roth conversions. The point of the exercise was to demonstrate how the IRS knows what dollars within all of a person's Roths are contributions and what are conversions and what are earnings. Additionally, the IRS treats the entirety of a person's Roths as a single Roth IRA. Not to get into the weeds of the Roth 5-year clock, but if you don't know about it, you can call me at 888-988-JOSH. We'll go into it. Nor will it cover exception to the 10% penalty. Time is limited. However, there are different types of Roth IRA dollars. So there are 3 types of dollars with Roths: contributions, conversions, and earnings. I get people who are very wealthy sometimes, they don't realize they can convert an unlimited amount to Roth. So a converted Roth is different than a contributory Roth. Why is it so important to know which dollars are within a Roth IRA? Because Roth IRAs follow strict ordering rules. There is no such thing as FIFO, first in, first out, with a Roth IRA. LIFO, last in, first out, and pro rata also have zero bearing on Roth IRA withdrawals. So there is a simple ordering procedure when it comes to Roths. Contributions come out first. That's the money you put in. So we've got 2 young men in the studio. One of the first things you want to look at doing, opening a Roth IRA, putting a couple $100 a month in. Why? You can use that for a first-time home purchase. It grows tax-free and can be pulled out tax-free. When you take money out, the first dollar out is a contribution. Second is converted dollars. And then when converted dollars, so converted is you have $10,000 from an old IRA, you converted it to Roth, that's second. And then the third in the ordering procedure is earnings come out last. That's it. Those are the ordering rules. And it does not matter from which Roth IRA you take a distribution. Remember, all the IRS sees when it looks at all of your Roth IRAs is one bucket of Roth dollars subdivided into contributions, conversions, and earnings. What about access to these dollars? A person can always withdraw Roth IRA funds, no questions asked. The issue is whether those dollars are subject to a 10% early withdrawal penalty and or taxes. So Roth IRA contributions are always tax and penalty free. It does not matter how long the IRA was opened or how old you are. So folks, if you want to learn a Roth is right for you, call me right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH, and we'll throw in the 27-point ultimate financial game plan. So remember, contributions, conversions, and earnings, those are the Roth ordering rules. You need to know about that. And if you haven't done a Roth, why not? Look at Roths. Look at Roth 401ks. Look at cash value life insurance. Look at defined benefit pension plans. And call us 888-988-JOSH. And you get the free book by our special guest, Tom Wheelwright, who's up at the top of the next hour. He is Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's personal tax advisor, best-selling author of the book Win-Win Wealth Strategy, which is our free giveaway if you call us at 888-988-JOSH. We're talking all things Inflation Reduction Act. Call us now, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH. We'll be back after these messages. Call us now, 888-988-JOSH.
WOR and WAXQ HD2 New York, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeartRadio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts.
There's no one more connected on the radio. That's why he's Mr. New York. Mark Simone, weekdays 10 to noon on the Voice of New York. 710 WOR.
An iHeart radio station.
It is 72 degrees at 10 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Paul DeCastro. Charles has been proclaimed Britain's king as the monarch drew her final breath Thursday at her beloved residence in Scotland.
It's hard to overstate the importance of Balmoral. It's a place the Queen often called her favorite. And looking around the countryside here, it's easy to see why the royal family just cherishes this place. It's here at Balmoral Castle the Queen spent the final moments of her life. And it's here that ceremonies celebrating the Queen's life will begin. In the coming days, the Queen's coffin will leave Balmoral, making one last trip to London. Maggie Burley, ABC News, Balmoral, Scotland.
Well, the 9/11 Memorial and Museum will commemorate the 21st anniversary of the September 11th attacks tomorrow.
Vice President Kamala Harris and the second gentleman will be among those gathering in New York for the traditional reading of the name ceremony by 9/11 family members.
God bless all the first responders that gave their lives that day. This is our city. And you can't take down New York ever.
Later to follow other annual traditions in the city, most notably the Tribute in Light, where beams of light shine in the night sky representing the once standing Twin Towers. Jennifer Pulsoni, WOR News.
And WOR will have coverage of the 9/11 commemoration starting tomorrow at 8:45 a.m. A few top House Democrats are requesting an investigation into airline companies' usage of pandemic funds.
Following weeks of thousands of flight delays and cancellations, Representatives Carolyn Maloney of New York and James Clyburn of South Carolina said they were concerned about federal funds being used for things like buyouts and early retirements. In a letter they wrote to Deputy Inspector General of the Treasury, Richard Delmar, the pair said these issues may be the reason for the shortage of commercial pilots. The airline industry as a whole received over $60 billion in pandemic relief funds in 2020. I'm Jim Forbes.
In sports, the Mets have been in first place since April 12th, but that changed last night as they lost to the Marlins and the Braves won in Seattle, lifting the Braves to a half-game lead in the NL East. Mets and Marlins play again tonight. The Yankees have lost 12 have lost 12 games from their largest lead of the season. It's down to 3.5 now
Hey, Tom,
over
can you
Tampa
hear
Bay
me?
after
This is
losing to
Ben.
the Rays last night, 4-2.
Here's your
yes, can you hear
WOR
me?
Weather Channel forecast.
Yeah, I can
Mostly
hear you.
sunny
Can
and
you hear
warmer
me?
to start off
Yes,
this
we'll be
week, and the
going
high
live in,
today
I
headed
think,
up
a
to
minute or
84,
so.
and then clouds will move in tonight with a low down to 68. It'll be a wet and cooler into the weekend tomorrow. Rain will increase into the afternoon with a
Tom,
high of
speak up a little
75, and there still may be an occasional shower to Monday, otherwise cloudy.
I'm sorry.
With a high close to 79 degrees. I'm
now?
meteorologist Jeff
Tom.
Marr.
Start your day
Okay.
with Len Berman and Michael Riedel in the morning,
You
6
see
till 10 weekdays. I'm Paul
I hear
DeCastro
you
on
fine.
710 WOR, an NBC News radio station.
Tired of losing money in the stock market roller coaster? Frustrated with the government taxing you into oblivion? Worried about inflation? How do you prepare for so many financial uncertainties? Welcome to the show that will help you develop your game plan. The Financial Quarterback with Josh Jalinski. Josh is a noted financial advisor and president of the Jalinski Advisory Group, and he's here to answer your questions. Call into the show at 800-321-0710. 800-321-0710. Now, let's kick off your financial future. Here's Josh Jalinski.
Okay, we're back with Tom Wheelwright talking about the Inflation Reduction Act. Tom Wheelwright needs no introduction to most of our listeners. Best-selling author, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, tax guru, best-selling author of the book Tax-Free Wealth, arguably one of the smartest tax minds in the country, if not the world, and the author of The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. So, Tom, for people who are new to you, give us a 30-second bio.
Oh, thanks, Josh. So, did my graduate work at the University of Texas, where I got my Master's of Tax, spent 14 years as an adjunct professor in the Master's of Tax program at Arizona State University, spent 7 years with Ernst & Young, 25 years buying, building, selling CPA firms, about 15 years, last 15 years traveling with Robert Kiyosaki all over the world. And now we run a network of CPA firms around in the U.S. and Canada.
That's exciting. So let's give a quick update on, a lot has happened since we've had you last on. What is the thing keeping you up at night as a tax advisor?
The IRS, for sure. It's the IRS.
Oh no.
The positions they take are not always rational. And with $80 billion more coming from the Inflation Reduction Act, you wonder just how much clout they will have. And it's a little bit like having an 800-pound gorilla sit on you. So I think that small business owners, investors are going to really need to be really double down on their tax advice. They're going to need to double down on their documentation and make sure that they're ready for the wave of audits that's coming.
So we'll talk about documentation tips. But first, Inflation Reduction Act. What is it, and what do our listeners need to know about it?
Yeah, so most of the money comes from big corporations, so that's not a big tax increase that people will see. They might see it as the stock market declines, but they won't see it otherwise. There's a stock buyback tax. There's a corporate minimum tax if you make $1 billion or more. What people are going to see are two things. One is, three. One's the increase in IRS audits. That's going to be the most visible. And the second is the extension and amplification of the solar and renewable energy tax credits. And the third is the extension of the business loss limitation, which is one thing I'm not hearing anybody talk about.
So let's talk about the solar. I've been wanting to get solar on my house and business since having you on for the last, 8 months regularly. I mean, we've had you on before for years, but you got me like really turned on to this is the year I'm going to take the plunge and buy solar. So the question on my mind is do I do solar this year or do I now wait till next year?
You don't have to wait till next year. They actually retroactively increase the credit to 30%. So those of us, like I'm in the middle of doing solar on my business, and I'll get that extra 4% credit this year. If you wait till next year, there's actually some areas of the country, there's some additional credits, and I'm still digging into them. We're doing a town hall on Monday Wealthability is my company, and I'll get into it over the weekend so that I know all the details. But there are some additional tacked on credit. So not only can you get a 30% credit, but in some cases you can get an additional 20%. So 50% credit. Now remember, if you're a business, you also get to deduct most of the cost of that against your income. So the government's literally paying you to make this investment. They want you to do solar.
So what was it before? You said 4%, so was it 26%?
Yeah, so it's 26%. So it had gone down to 26. It's scheduled to go to 22, okay, next year. And then it's scheduled to go all the way down to 10 for businesses.
Wow.
So what it got extended. It's going to be 30% for most businesses and most individuals. It's 30% regardless. There are some rules for paying union wages, which is, I think, the most fascinating part of the law. But those only apply if you've got a 1 megawatt production facility or more. And there are very few businesses that are going to have a 1 megawatt production facility.
Wow. So is the megawatt thing like if you're a Bitcoin miner, so I should become a solar paneling producing Bitcoin miner?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It would apply there. It applies for the solar farms. It applies for the big industrial complexes. Like, for example, if Intel were to go in and go big on solar with their, gigantic manufacturing facilities, then that would apply there. And basically all it says is that you don't have to hire union people. That would be illegal. They couldn't do that under the Constitution. But you do have to pay the wages as if they were union people. So that's a really interesting nod towards employees and nod towards particularly union employees. It very much is an incentive to use union labor.
Yeah, wow. So use unions, buy solar, although I don't think union labor will still be cheaper. So we got unions, we got solar, we got the IRS is being expanded aggressively. And you said a third thing, the business loss rules. Talk about that.
Business loss limitation. This is big for our listeners here because, prior to 2021, any of your business losses, and that could include real estate losses from accelerated depreciation. It could include losses because you have a startup business. Those could offset any income, okay, including wages. Then what happened is we got this law. The law actually came into play in 2017, but then it got, moved because of the pandemic. And what this bill does is extends it. What that means is that if you have big losses from real estate, they can only offset business income and then $500,000 of wages, interest, dividends, and retirement income. So you can't wipe out your tax anymore. It's a kind of a minimum tax is what it really is. And it means that people who, for example, they've learned about being a real estate professional, they go, oh, my spouse is at home. They can be a real estate professional pretty easily. And those people, are thinking, well, geez, I have my spouse is a real estate professional. I'm a doctor making $1 million a year. You no longer can wipe out your doctor's salary. You can only wipe out $500,000 of it.
Wow. So really then the max loss you can wipe out is $500,000.
Yeah, outside of business income. Now, business income, you can wipe it all out. So this is another nod towards having a business. Right. If you make your money as a business in a business, a pass-through business like an S corporation or a partnership, you don't have this limitation. You only have this limitation if you make your money as an employee or through interest, dividends, and retirement.
So LLCs would be also included in that?
As long as they're taxed. Again, LLCs, this is a big misnomer. Josh, I'm glad you brought it up. People think LLCs are some kind of a tax animal, but they're not. They're actually just a legal animal. And you can elect to tax an LLC any way you want. You can elect to tax an LLC as a corporation, an S corporation, a partnership. They can be pretty much anything you want other than a trust. And so an LLC could be, excuse me, an LLC could be absolutely used But the important thing is that it's business income and that you're not a C corporation taking dividends.
Fantastic. So what else do we need to know about this Inflation Reduction Act?
Well, can we talk about the IRS for a minute?
Yeah, I don't want to, but sure, go ahead.
So, first of all, let's clear up some misunderstanding. There's been all this uproar about there's going to be 87,000 IRS agents toting guns. That is not true. Okay. An IRS agent is different from an IRS auditor. And an IRS agent is law enforcement, and they're the ones who come and repossess your car because you didn't, as a business owner, pay in payroll taxes, your employees' payroll taxes. Those are IRS agents. There's only a couple of thousand of those, and they're not going to substantially increase. What you're going to see is a whole lot of new auditors. Now, okay, the 87,000, that's the projected increase in staff at the IRS. And that's almost double their staff. So they're almost doubling the size of the IRS with this. Unfortunately, this is where my big complaint, I don't have any complaint about giving the IRS some money. I really don't. But where they're using the money is troubling because the IRS currently answers about 10% of their phone calls from taxpayers. If you or I, Josh, answer 10% of our phone calls, we'd be out of business in about a week. And instead, the IRS says, okay, well, we just give us more money. But they're only putting, of that $80 billion, they're putting less than 5% of it towards customer service. Less than 5%. So $3.5 million. And they're only putting another billion. They're putting another $4.5 billion towards technology. Well, they're way behind in technology. They need to put $45 billion towards technology. And that would help streamline the system. It would help enforcement. I would like to see a lot more money going to technology and customer service. And do they need to increase their audit force? Sure, they do. But they don't need to increase it by double. Clearly, they don't need to increase it by double.
That's insane. So where do you think the money's going? I mean, I've heard like $2 billion is for software. I'm probably not. I've heard they need modernization of their software, stuff like that.
They actually say right in the bill, $3.5 billion goes to customer service, $4.5 billion goes to technology, $45 billion goes to enforcement. That's all those new IRS auditors, and the rest just goes to operations. Goes to, sorry, but ballooning in infrastructure. I mean, I don't know. That $28 billion is troubling. It's like a slush fund for the IRS. They were going to use that. Who knows what that's going to be used for?
I thought they were going to use that for supercomputers or... Well, I think a lot of the money...
It's just operations, Josh. Wow. They say operations, but who knows what they'll actually use it for. Now, we do have... President Biden is due to propose a new IRS commissioner in the next few weeks, actually, because the current IRS commissioner's term is up in October. So we'll see what type of person he brings in. There's a lot of call for somebody who's operational, who can really lead it, as opposed to a tax attorney. The current IRS commissioner is a tax attorney. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I'm hoping that they put more to technology. I'd like them to use supercomputers. I'd like them to do more of that. What we don't want is that the big concern I've got is, President Biden signed an executive order in the spring that said that we could create a U.S. digital currency. Well, the IRS has long wanted to spy on U.S. taxpayers. And if we were to get a U.S. digital currency, it would make it very, very easy for them. And that's a bit troubling. It's not there yet. But we'll just have to see what the IRS uses the money for. Hopefully, they'll get their customer service under control.
Yeah, I am firmly against a U.S. digital currency. That would be a big scam. That would be horrible. So we'll talk more about a digital currency, talk more about Bitcoin, talk more about the role of these IRS auditors, maybe in chain analysis, to get crypto tax cheats. And we'll talk more about ways that you can save money based on his win-win wealth strategy. So folks, if you have a question, anything on taxes, now is the time to call us, 800-321-0710. We have Tom Wheelwright on answering all of your tax questions. 800-321-0710. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Maybe it seems like prices can't get much higher, or that the stock market is headed for bear territory, or maybe you're worried about another great recession. Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, can help you protect your family's financial future in times like these. Tune in this weekend to the Financial Quarterback to hear how Josh and his team can help you decrease your tax liability and lower your risk. Call 888-988-5674 to take advantage of Josh's 27-point plan to achieve financial health. And when you call, you'll receive a free copy of Josh's book, Retirement Reality Check. Tune in every weekend to the Financial Quarterback and call 888-988-5674 to receive your free copy of Retirement Reality Check. Tune in to the Financial Quarterback Josh Jalinski this weekend and learn how to protect your financial future in a down economy. Josh and his team at the Jalinski Advisory Group can help you lower your taxes and lower your risk in these uncertain times with a 27-point checklist designed to improve your financial health. Whether you're worried about runaway prices, fear of an upcoming recession, or a stock market meltdown, tune in to the Financial Quarterback and count on Josh Jalinski to call the play. For a free copy of Josh's book, The Retirement Reality Check, call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674. Or visit Jalinski.org. That's JALINSKI.org.
Back with Tom Wheelwright talking taxes, taking your questions. If you have any tax questions, call us. We're taking questions live now on Clubhouse, also over the radio airwaves of New York's WOR at 800-321-0710. So, Tom, do you how much of this budget is geared towards chain analysis and getting Bitcoin tax cheats or crypto tax cheats?
We'll see. I think there is, I was reading in the Wall Street Journal just this morning, Treasury Janet Yellen is still, she's like, does not like it. And you would expect central bankers not to like cryptocurrency. And there are a lot of tax cheats out there. Let's be honest. I mean, that's one of the reasons people, started with Bitcoin. They go, well, we can be outside the system. Well, you're still a tax cheat, and that's where the IRS agent may come knocking on your door as opposed to the IRS auditor. I do think that that's where the technology, that's one of the types of technology I think they need to be putting into place so that they can actually do a better job of making sure that cryptocurrency transactions are properly reported. Because remember, anytime you use cryptocurrency, you're selling it. Right. Even if you call it an exchange, okay, I'm trading Bitcoin for Ethereum. That's a sale. Okay. Or I'm trading Bitcoin, or I'm using Bitcoin for a seminar. Right. That's you're selling your Bitcoin. So there are a lot of tax implications. You talked about mining. Mining is currently, the IRS says that's taxable. And hopefully we'll get some better rules in the next year or two. But as the IRS gets some of this money, maybe they'll be able to put some regulations out to help us know what to do.
So the Inflation Reduction Act, what does it do to individual taxes?
Outside of the IRS audits and the business loss limitation and the solar credits, not much. There's no tax rates that went up. There's nothing significant there. I think big corporations are going to see this is really challenging for them because you're basing a minimum tax, this 15% minimum tax, on book income, which is, by the way, book income is decided by accountants out of New Jersey, the FASB, not by Congress. So it's a little challenging. But I think in the average individual probably won't see much at all. They certainly won't see a reduction in inflation. Now, one thing that is in this act, anybody who's on Medicare will see a reduction in the cost of their prescriptions. Okay, if you're on Medicare, because they actually are reducing the cost of prescriptions. However, what that means is if you force pharmaceuticals to reduce their price to Medicare, then what are they going to do with the rest of us that aren't on Medicare? right, chances are our prices are going to go up. So it's questionable whether it's the Inflation Reduction Act. I actually call it the Business Disruption Act. So,
yeah, because they're going after small businesses. The masseuse getting Venmo payments. I imagine, I find it shocking when people use Venmo, right?
Yeah.
They publicize what they do. And I don't know if you've seen this, it's a list of your friends. And if you were the IRS, you could basically I'm going to go after the hairdresser, the person doing nails, the masseuse, all of these hidden economies. Do you hear about that? I mean, is that what they're using some of this money for?
They're in New York. New York does a really good job with their technology. New York State. And what they do, for example, let me give you an example. So they will look at the number of lottery tickets purchased at a store, a convenience store, or a little grocery store. And they will calculate, they can calculate pretty well with AI and everything because they use that. They can calculate about how much of gross receipts they should have in the store. So if the store shows that they're reporting substantially less income than would be typical for a store that had that much in lottery ticket sales, they will actually send an audit assessment. Wow. So this is the type of thing. I mean, this is why I think the technology is such an important part. I mean, if the IRS really wants to go after enforcement, it's going to have to go after it through technology. Going after it through auditors is just a bad idea.
Yeah, I think the tech is good. I mean, there are so many of these, I was on the Jersey Shore boardwalk, and I mean, for years, all of these companies only took cash, and you know what that means.
Right.
And, eventually one of them, a famous pizza shop guy, he got, I think, indicted. And they let him out every summer to make pizzas to pay his debt.
That's funny.
I don't know if you've heard of this story. World famous pizza place on the boardwalk, and was cash only for a number of years. Now they take credit cards. Now, I mean, heck, I used to find it. You don't have wads of cash in your bathing suit when you're going. I prefer a credit card. I give that place more business now. But he comes out, I think he had a 5-year sentence. And every summer, he probably got out 18 months in good behavior. But every summer, they would let him out to make pizzas to pay his debt. But I'd rather go after those types of people who don't pay taxes that they should pay normally.
Well, and that's why, Josh, you hear this idea that they're only going to go after people making more than $400,000. But that's not where most of the tax cheating is. Most of the tax cheating is just like you're talking about. It's the little pizza place on the boardwalk. It's it's the dry cleaners. It's the masseuse. It's the nail salon. It's those people who take cash payments, right? And so what, Janet Yellen was really crafty when she was talking about this $400,000 limit. What she said was the proportion of audits of people making under $400,000 is not going to go up. Well, right now, 90% of audits are for people making under $400,000. So that means that proportionally, those audits are going to go up. So if you double the IRS budget, you would expect double the audits of people making less than $400,000. So people think, well, I don't have to worry about it. I don't make $400,000. That is not the case. You're gonna start seeing a massive increase of audits within the next 3 to 4 years.
And be careful. Be careful with your Venmo receipt. Here's the thing. My advice to you people making whatever 50 to 200 grand a year doing this cash business, just be legit. You can save taxes with your strategies that we're going to give away to those of you who call us at 888-988-JOSH. You can buy the book Win-Win Wealth Strategy wherever books are sold. We're going to get to Win-Win Wealth Strategy, best-selling book. But if you're making 100 grand a year in one of these businesses, you don't need to cheat on your taxes.
Right.
The strategies that you talk about can save them on their taxes, and they're legit. So you don't want to end up like the guy with the pizza shop. This guy made millions of dollars a year in pizza, by the way. He could easily have afforded the tax planning work, the financial planning work, but he chose not to, so it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just not that hard. I mean, I've written two best-selling books on this subject, Tax-Free Wealth and Win-Win Wealth. And it's not that hard to reduce your taxes. It's actually pretty simple. I mean, we were just talking about the solar credits. I mean, what an easy way to reduce your taxes and reduce your utility bills. I mean, your return on investment, that when I in the Win-Win Wealth strategy, I actually go through 7 different investments where you see not just how the government contributes, but what kind of money you make by making these investments. So, the goal is let's build wealth and reduce our taxes. Let's not cheat on our taxes. It's a much better way to do it because you're actually building wealth. You're not just reducing your taxes.
Oh, fantastic. So let's work through that. So somebody wants to buy solar, the solar, whatever, $100,000 for their commercial building.
Yep.
I mean, I've seen quotes from $30,000 to $100,000, depending on it's a house or a building or whatever. Let's say it's $100,000. So they work through the cost savings on $100,000 solar for somebody's business.
So I'm doing this right now on my building in Arizona, and it's about $100,000 actually. Interestingly enough, it's right at about $100,000, and we pay about $7,000 a year in utility bills. So that means on $100,000, that would be a 7% return on investment, but it's actually not. It's actually 3 times that. It's really a 21% or 22% return. And here's why. Because I'm not going to put in $100,000. I get a $30,000 credit. So now I'm down to $70,000 I'm putting in. I get an $85,000 deduction. Okay. And at a 40% tax bracket, because you get to include your state taxes in that deduction, at a 40% tax bracket, that's $34,000. So now I'm not putting in $100,000. I'm not even putting in $70,000. I'm putting in $36,000. Well, the $7,000 divided by $36,000 is closer to 20% than it is to 7%. So you're really getting a much higher return on your investment than you would have expected because you're not paying all the costs. The government's contributing a large lion's share of the cost. Do you do solar on your house? Yeah, you can do it on your house. You don't get the deduction, you get the credit. So you get a 30% credit. So in your house situation, you'd be getting a 30% credit. So instead of $100,000, well, it's probably not going to cost you $100,000 to do your house.
Let's say it costs what, $50,000?
Say $50,000. Yeah, it's not going to be $50,000. It's going to be $35,000, right? Okay. Because you're going to get a $15,000 credit, and so you calculate your savings based on $35,000. Don't calculate it based on and the thing with the credits, doesn't matter what remember, it doesn't matter what tax bracket you're in. If you're in a 40% bracket or a 20% bracket, a credit is worth the same because it's dollar for dollar. It's not a deduction. It's not reducing your income. It's actually reducing your tax.
Wow.
So the credits are they're kind of the super tax benefits.
That's amazing. So it's a business credit. It's a personal deduction. Is that fair to say?
No, you get the credits for both business and personal.
Okay.
You only get the deduction on your business.
I got it. Okay, so folks, this is exciting. Tom Wheelwright. We're going to talk more about the 7 ways to save taxes based on his book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy, and other tax tips from the tax man himself, Tom Wheelwright. You can get his book on Amazon, Win-Win Wealth Strategy, or wherever books are sold. Do you prefer people buy it from Amazon or from your website?
Doesn't matter. Wherever it's easiest for you is fine with us. We just want you to get the information.
Do you have a website for the book?
We do. It's If I remember right, it's the winwinwealthstrategy.com. So
the winwinwealthstrategy.
That should get you there. That is the website for the book, the winwinwealthstrategy.com.
Wonderful. Or you could call us at 888-988-JOSH. We'll give you the book for free.
Even better.
Schedule your no obligation review. I'll buy you the book. It's so good. I mean, there are retirement planning tips. There are solar tips. There are all kinds of tips for you. Real estate tips. It's one of the better books, I think, this year out on the subject of money and tax savings. Give us a call. If not, the best new book out. 888-988-JOSH. We'll be back after these messages.
Maybe it seems like prices can't get much higher, or that the stock market is headed for bear territory, or maybe you're worried about another great recession. Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, can help you protect your family's financial future in times like these. Tune in this weekend to the Financial Quarterback to hear how Josh and his team can help you decrease your tax liability and lower your risk. Call 888-988-5674 to take advantage of Josh's 27-point plan to achieve financial health. And when you call, you'll receive a free copy of Josh's book, Retirement Reality Check. Tune in every weekend to the Financial Quarterback and call 888-988-5674 to receive your free copy of Retirement Reality Check.
Okay, we're back. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. So before we go to your book and the 7 tips elucidated in the book on the areas, what new research are you on? I know you're doing TikToks now. Are you doing that yourself, or do you hire somebody? You're like a TikTok celebrity.
Well, I actually record them, and then I have production crew do them. We've had them go over 500,000 views. So TikTok's been pretty fun.
Yeah,
I like doing it because I like simplifying. And TikTok, you really have to simplify. To get it down that short, you really have to simplify things. And that's what I'm always trying to do, is simplify a very complex area. By the way, we're on the Inflation Reduction Act. We're doing a town hall Monday evening. And if you can sign up, if you go to wealthability.com/inflation, then you can sign up for that. It's free. It's a free town hall. So we'll answer all the questions. We'll get into real details on the Inflation Reduction Act and the solar credits, et cetera. But we're just happy to, I'm always looking at, okay, what's really going on in the world? So in the Win-Win Wealth Strategy, for example, we went to 15 countries. We didn't just look at the U.S. We looked at 15 different countries. Wow. We have charts and tables for 15 countries, because what I wanted to see was how prevalent are these tax incentives in other countries. And it's remarkable. Wow. It's absolutely remarkable how consistent they are. I was shocked when I was researching the book. So now my next project is actually, I'm working on how to help CPAs do a better job with their clients. That's my next project, because I think the most important thing you can have when it comes to, as you know, and when it comes to your finances, is good advisory. And when it comes to taxes, it's a good CPA. And so I'm working on how to help CPAs do a better job with their clients.
That's fantastic. So besides your book, what do our listeners need to know before we get into those 7 tips? Well, one of them, solar, we already talked about it. Anything new on the tax horizon, or not really? It's pretty tame.
It depends on what happens in the midterm elections, Josh. I mean, that's going to be really interesting, because, a year ago, you would have thought that Republicans were going to take both the House and the Senate. And today, it's very clear they're probably not going to take the Senate, and they may not take the House. If the Democrats get this retain control of the House and the Senate, and they actually increase their control in the Senate, you're going to see some massive tax increases in the next 2 years. Massive. You remember, Build Back Better was $3.5 trillion, right? And they got it down to $700 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act. That's really just a slimmed down version of Build Back Better. Bernie Sanders would like $6 trillion. And he'd like it primarily to be tax hikes so that they can spend more money on government programs. And that's likely if the Democrats get control. This is where if you don't want higher taxes, then you probably will need to make sure you get to the polls and really pay attention to that. Because if the Democrats do control all three houses, basically the White House, Congress, and the
real
Senate,
quick,
you're gonna see massive tax increases.
Well, how do you see the Republicans losing? I'm going to Real Clear Politics for an average of polls. How do they even lose the Senate? I mean, you got Herschel Walker is now leading in Georgia. You have Kelly from your state of Arizona, who's now only up by 2. Polls misrepresent, but I would see that they win the Senate by a couple, but maybe
maybe for the last several months, Kelly's been way ahead.
You're right, though.
Mitch McConnell's PAC pulled its funding from Masters from the Republican candidate.
Really?
Their PAC pulled their funding this week.
Why?
Pulled their funding. So Mark Kelly is likely to win. Herschel Walker has so much baggage. It's really questionable whether he can win. Now, if the Republicans get out, get out and vote, then he'll win. If the Republicans get out and vote in Arizona, then
if the Republicans lose Arizona and Georgia, it's over because they're probably going to lose Pennsylvania,
right?
Because Oz is. It's interesting, I have a Republican friend in Pennsylvania, and Oz is thought to be more liberal, so he's not getting some of the conservative support in Pennsylvania. I mean, maybe he pulls through because of name recognition, but you got Pennsylvania, Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia. I mean, I guess you're right in terms of the polls, but the polls are often, they overemphasize.
I think that the danger, though, is that, look at Georgia 2 years ago. Georgia 2 years ago, they should have won both those races.
Yeah.
The Republicans. And they lost both those races primarily because Donald Trump told them not to go to the polls.
Yeah.
That's what happened. He's, now you have some of these Trump endorsed people, that the people who voted for Biden and not Trump in 2020 are very likely to vote for the Democratic senator as well in 2022.
You see that in, you're from Arizona.
I think that's the challenge.
Do you see that in Arizona or not really?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There were 100,000 people in Arizona who voted against Trump and for all the other Republicans. So that's how
but are they voting for Blake Masters or not really?
What's that?
Are they going to vote for Masters?
I don't know. It's challenging because Blake Masters they stole the election person in the primaries, and Blake Masters has no experience whatsoever. So Arizona actually had a much better candidate, I thought, in Mark Brnovich, the attorney general, but they went with the Trump candidate. And so, the question is, and Mark Kelly is talking about name recognition. He's an astronaut. I mean, he's got tremendous name recognition. I don't know. I think it's going to be close, but
I mean, the average,
I think Masters has a tough road.
The average is +4 Kelly, which means Blake Masters is gaining. And that +4 could easily turn into a +2 win because I don't trust any of these polls. They always,
of course not.
They said Kelly was going to win by 9. He won by 2.4 in 2020. So well, we'll see. So you could see a blue surprise lead to higher taxes. That's interesting.
Yeah, so, if now, the Republicans still are projected to win the House. And if they win the House, then you've got a stalemate, which is really the best you can hope for from a tax standpoint. With a Democrat in the White House. So if this is all I'm saying, I'm just saying that if Republicans were to not get out and vote in November, then there's a danger that if you've got the Democrats, I'm just telling you, they're going to be emboldened, especially if they were. Let's say they ended up with look at this number, Josh. Let's say the Democrats ended up with 52 in the Senate. Okay, you've had Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, who've been really the voice of reason for the most part, and they've held up that major tax increases. They become irrelevant in a 52 majority Senate. So that's very, very, to me, that's a little scary.
I'll have to go.
We'll still be able to reduce taxes. It's not a problem for our clients, but for the general public, they're going to have some challenges.
You're making me rethink, but Walker is now clearly in the lead in Georgia, not by much, 0.5.
Well,
and this is based on polls though, which normally skew more Democratic. So let's say Georgia goes Republican. I think Arizona will go Republican. I think Pennsylvania and Wisconsin will be tough to go Republican. Pennsylvania, you have a lot of, you got Philly is overwhelmingly populated. Okay, next up, we're going to the phone lines at 800-321-0710. We got a question from Tommy on how to avoid taxes from a lawsuit settlement. But first, we're going to hold for your phone calls. Got to take a short break. Call us 800-321-0710. And then we'll get into the Win-Win Wealth Strategy book, which we are giving away to those of you who call us at 888-988-JOSH. You kind of, I didn't think we'd have a blue wave prediction here. But you're right. That is something that could really rock financial questions. That could really rock financial plans. And they're not going to care because they're going to probably think, hey, we're going to get DeSantis or Trump in 2024, so we might as well. Interestingly enough, Trump is polling +3 in national polling, but some of these Senate seats are not, which is, people often vote for gridlock. If I was a betting person, I think the Senate kind of holds, maybe goes +1, +2 Republican. I think the House is going to go clearly Republican, but we'll see. Next up, we're taking your calls, 800-321-0710. We'll be back after these questions.
Tune in to the financial quarterback Josh Jalinski this weekend and learn how to protect your financial future in a down economy. Josh and his team at the Jalinski Advisory Group can help you lower your taxes and lower your risk in these uncertain times with a 27-point checklist designed to improve your financial health. Whether you're worried about runaway prices, fear of an upcoming recession, or a stock market meltdown, tune in to the financial quarterback and count on Josh Jalinski to call the play. For a free copy of Josh's book, The Retirement Reality Check, call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674. Or visit Jalinski.org. That's JALINSKI.org. Maybe it seems like prices can't get much higher, or that the stock market is headed for bear territory, or maybe you're worried about another great recession. Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback, can help you protect your family's financial future in times like these. Tune in this weekend to the financial quarterback to hear how Josh and his team can help you decrease your tax liability and lower your risk. Call 888-988-5674 to take advantage of Josh's 27-point plan to achieve financial health. And when you call, you'll receive a free copy of Josh's book, Retirement Reality Check. Tune in every weekend to the financial quarterback and call 888-988-5674 to receive your free copy of Retirement Reality Check.
We're back. This is Josh Jalinski, the financial quarterback. If you have a question for Tom, now is the time to chime in. If you have a question on Clubhouse. So, Tom, how do you avoid taxes on a settlement? Somebody wants to know.
Yeah, so there's only one type of settlement that's non-taxable, and that is for physical, you've been hurt physically, right? There's got to be some kind of actual health issue going on, and you have to write your agreement that way. This is a really good question. I see too many settlements, like with employers, with lawsuits against, that are that are, pharmaceutical, doctors, et cetera, that they're like compensatory. They're punitive. Well, those are all taxable. The only thing that's not taxable is when it's actually for because of your health. And so you need to make sure that it's written that way. And so you need to make sure that the attorney is writing it the right way. That's critical. Otherwise, you're going to lose. The IRS wins 95% of these arguments because the agreement is written poorly.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about your book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. So I know there's 7 key ways to save taxes. We've talked about solar and environmental. Anything else environmental that you get a big tax credit?
Oh yeah, I mean certainly any renewable energies, wind energy, even nuclear energy got a pop. There's lots of different ways. Even they increased in the Inflation Reduction Act. They increased your credits for putting on better windows and doors. So there's little things like that, and they can add up pretty quick. And that's kind of the environmental. Remember that all energy is incentivized. So oil and gas is incentivized almost as much as solar, which is interesting in today's climate. But the administration's never been able to eliminate or reduce those tax benefits, which is a good thing. We need the oil and gas, in my opinion. So oil and gas is still, any kind of energy is going to be beneficial. Remember that it all starts with, are you actually producing for the economy? Are you producing something that the government wants produced? Are you producing housing? Are you producing jobs? Are you producing food? Are you producing energy? Are you producing technology? If you're producing something like that and you're directly producing it, you're not buying a stock, okay, but you're actually producing it directly, then the government's going to give you incentive because these are things the government wants done. These are social priorities of the government. They're economic priorities. They're even defense priorities. I go through all the different priorities in the government and why they do this. But on top of that, what was really fascinating to me as I was writing the Win-Win Wealth Strategy is that the government wins financially in most of these. 6 out of the 7 investments, the government wins financially. And so, you think, well, the government's this big giveaway, right? Well, it's not. The government, remember, they give you a tax benefit going in, but they also tax you coming out because they're your partner in your business. They're your partner in your investments. They're your partner in your solar. They're a partner with you. So you're going to get now not with individual tax credits, but for the business side of things, the government really wants you to do this, and they win and you win. That's why it's the win-win wealth strategy.
So we have El Chorizo, who has a question on his business. There are business tax breaks. I want you to talk about that next. But first, El Chorizo, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yes, I had a question. So I've learned that in Mexico, there's a lot of U.S. companies opening up call centers, support call centers out of Mexico City or any part of Mexico. I'm going on Monday to take a look at some spaces. It's not that expensive to open a call center, and it's very lucrative, right? Especially because the hourly wage in Mexico is about $8 US per hour for somebody, or $7. Now, I have the option of opening the business in Mexico, but in Mexico, I come to find out there's not many tax incentives like they are in the United States when you open something like that. And I don't know the verbiage, the lingo, and other stuff, and I don't want to deal with that side of things. Now, are there any tax advantages from opening the business entity in the United States and operating out of the country?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. This is a question I'm getting more and more often, Josh, is that what happens when I operate in multiple countries? Remember, first of all, if you're a permanent resident or a citizen in the United States, you're taxed on your worldwide income. So you still get the tax benefits in the U.S. Okay, now you're still going to pay tax in Mexico. So you're going to pay tax in Mexico, you're going to pay tax in the U.S. What you want to do is you want to sit down with a good tax advisor in Mexico and a good one in the US and have them communicate with each other. And the reason is because what you don't want to do is pay tax twice. You want to you want the incentives in the US. You want to make sure that you're doing it right in Mexico so that you get a credit in the US for the taxes you pay to Mexico. That's the most important thing. And that is actually kind of international tax 101 is don't pay tax twice. And I see a lot of people that make mistakes on this. And so what they end up doing is they end up paying tax both in Mexico and in the US. So I would just, this is a case where you really need good tax advisors in both countries, and they need to be talking to each other.
We have about, we have to go to more questions. Folks, if you want to get the free consult, you can call us at 888-988-JOSH. We could also hook you up with one of Tom's team members at Wealthability for your tax questions. 2-for-1 special. You get the financial quarterback and Wealthability, and you get the free book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy, which normally you can buy it on Amazon. We are going to go to Nicole with another question. We only have about 6 minutes left, 5 minutes left. So if you have any other questions, quick, raise your hand. We're going to try to get to them. Go ahead, Nicole.
Hello. I'm calling regarding the IRS agents that are being hired to audit returns. I'm still waiting for my refund, so no one's being hired to process the returns quicker. What's being done about that, if anything?
Well, this is the problem, Nicole, is that of the $80 billion, and remember, this is over 10 years that they get the $80 billion. Of the $80 billion that they added to the IRS, only $3.5 billion, less than 5%, is going to customer service. So, we hope the new IRS commissioner, whoever they are, will focus more on customer service. But that is the major issue at the IRS right now. They're not processing returns. They're not processing refunds. They're not answering the phone. It's really, it's just the worst mess I've ever seen in my 40-year career at the IRS.
Why is this happening now?
What's that?
It wasn't a problem it seemed before.
It wasn't. It's actually been. It got exacerbated during the pandemic because the IRS was the one who was required to send out all of the stimulus checks. They sent out all the child care money, all of that kind of stuff. That exacerbated it. But frankly, they were bad even going into the pandemic. But you're right. It's gotten a lot worse, and they're starting to catch up a little bit, but it's very slow.
So, Tom, as we conclude the interview, your book, give us some more tax tips that we can find in the Win-Win Wealth Strategy.
Yeah. First of all, remember that business gets the most tax benefits in every country. So owning a business, even if it's a side business out of your home, is such a great tax advantage. Literally, I did an example in Win-Win Wealth Strategy in Chapter 2 where I look at, okay, how much does it cost to start a business and what are the tax benefits? And the tax benefits are greater than the cost. So the government literally will pay you to start a business. And then, you go down. So, 5 of these 7 are really business related. They're business investment related. But then we have a couple that, Josh, I know are near and dear to your heart. One is life insurance, which has tremendous tax benefits. We could spend a whole hour on that. And then another one is retirement planning and different types of retirement plans. I talk about qualified plans and non-qualified plans and look at the difference between the two and how that works. I heard you talking earlier about Roth IRAs. That's part of that type of retirement planning. But what we do is we really go through. Those are the 2 that individuals can take advantage of that you don't have to be a business, just in life insurance and retirement planning.
Why life insurance? A lot of people badmouth life insurance. Why should people give it a second look?
Well, I think they badmouth life insurance because there's so much term insurance sold, and term insurance is an expense, and unless you die, it doesn't do you any good, right? It's just insurance. Whereas whole life or universal life, this is an asset. This is an asset you are going to be able to use, and you can use it during your life, not just when you die. So life insurance, the reason the government incentivizes it is because They want to protect, it's very important that people feel secure. And life insurance is one way they can feel secure. So life insurance proceeds are not taxable. They're completely tax exempt. Now, you've got to set things up right so you don't pay estate taxes. But generally speaking, they're completely tax exempt.
Now, fantastic. And you can loan out money from your life insurance cash values for business purposes and get more write-offs. You can use it to buy solar. You can use it to do Bitcoin mining. You can use it to buy real estate, which I know that's your claim to fame. So
just
folks,
30.
Give us a call. The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. You get the free book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. Tom Wheelwright, when you schedule and keep your no obligation review, call us 888-988-JOSH.
15.
888-988-5674. 888-988-JOSH. You get the book, The Win-Win Wealth Strategy. Also goes into real estate strategies, insurance, defined benefit plans, Bitcoin mining, any of that stuff. Also the whole section on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So call us 888-988-JOSH.
WOR and WAXQ HD2 New York, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeart Radio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts.